Last winter, Russia went through the communal catastrophe. Power and boiler plants broke down, hundreds of thousands of people were stuck without electricity, heat, hot, cold water. Right now, there are millions of people are affected by floods in the south of Urals region of Russia, and yet the help from the government is very limited, if any. Right now, there are 47% of Russian industrial enterprises, both military and non-military, report shortages of qualified workers. Right now, Tatarstan province of Russia is in the process of lowering the minimum age of children the children will be able to start working at the factories at 14 soon. Right now, there's a new bill being discussed in the Russian government. If passed, employers will have a right to force employees to work overtime. Right now, there are companies actively hiring women to fill heavy labor positions. That was never seen in Russia before. The reason for all of that is there isn't enough people in Russia to work. There's a catastrophe. There's a large wave washing out the very foundation of Russian economy. People are disappearing. Everything else is not that important. Real estate, banking troubles, drop in oil and gas exports, inflation. That's important, of course, but not that important as people. It's here now. We are seeing it now. It is bad. And it's not going to get any better, only worse. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. No propaganda, BS, or lies here, only truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions too, because I am a human being after all. A disclaimer, when preparing today's stream and researching the topic, I used some materials from the media called The Vital Stories. The guys are very good. Another disclaimer is there will be no private, live stream chat today, as I'm not feeling too dandy, so I'll just deliver the message. I'll invite everyone to finish the stream with prayer, and there will be no chat. Hopefully, we'll chat tomorrow. And without further ado, let's jump right into today's topic. I went to 3 universities, one in Western Russia, one in Northern California, and one in Southern Maine. I studied economics and I took quite a few business courses. And at every business class, at first they ask you one question everywhere. And the question is, what's any business' most important assets? Do you know? What's the most important asset? Is it capital? Is it facilities, perhaps machinery? Is it intellectual property? Any resources, perhaps? No. It's people. Any business's most important asset is people. If you have the right people, everything would just come to you. You'd shoot for the stars. If you don't, even if great business idea, even with capital, most likely your business fails. With countries, people are even more important. Well, for 2 reasons. Number one, people utilize all other forms of resources by using technology. It's people first. It's all around us, not the way around, not the other way around. People are also known as human capital, and it is number one. And number two, human beings, humans are producers and consumers of earth resources. They're both consumers and they're both producers. All economies are working for people. So people are number one. It's the foundation of everything else in the economy. Let's take a closer look at Russia. What's going on? Obviously, Russia right now is undergoing a huge crisis. Let me give you one number. Any economist would understand what I'm talking about right away. Unemployment in Russia now is at all-time low at 2.8%. In February of 2024, it's 2.8%. Now, in February of 2023, Vladimir Putin was addressing the nation and he mentioned with an incredible sense of pride that unemployment in Russia was at all-time low 3%. He was, his face was radiating light. His eyes were, had beams of light when he was saying that. And I was thinking back then, is he completely out of his mind? 3% is bad, bad, bad. Any economist would tell you that good unemployment, healthy unemployment, is considered any number from the range of 5 to 7. That's healthy. That stimulates economic growth. It means that there's enough people to fill positions, and unemployment is not too bad. What's below 5% is considered unhealthy. 3% is a catastrophe. It means that there are not enough people in the labor force of a country to fill all job openings. And 2.8% is close to kaput. And yes, this February's unemployment is 2.8%. But wait, that's not all. It'll get much worse because, well, before getting to that, let me explain you why Russia is undergoing this situation. There are three major reasons for people disappearing from Russian labor force. And they're easy to understand. They're fairly obvious. First reason, and the most obvious and the most crucial, is Russian men are thrown into the fire of Russian-Ukrainian war. In September of 2022, 350,000 Russian men were mobilized and sent to the front lines to fight in the war that no one really understands why it's being fought. 350,000 people is the official number. But you know what? No one trusts the official numbers anymore. If a Russian official, no matter of what caliber, tells you that something is white, it's black in reality. So I've heard the experts giving different numbers, 400,000 men, 500,000 men, even 1 million men were mobilized and sent to Ukraine. And how many people out of those mobilized were killed? How many people got disabled? No one talking about that. No one is asking these questions. I seem to be the only Russian who is asking this question. How many people were killed? Just give us the number. We have a right to know. We're the voters and the taxpayers. But guess what? No such luck. I think it's safe to say that hundreds of thousands of Russians will never work normal jobs again. And what's even more painful for me to ask, how many Ukrainians were killed? Those who didn't invade anyone, those who didn't do anything wrong, those who are leading peaceful lives, they happen to be defending their country after it was brutally invaded. How many of those were killed? How many of those who were unfortunate to live in places that were hit by Russian bombs and missiles were killed? And in Russia, people are acting as if it's simply not happening, and Ukrainians are not dying. Or perhaps don't even care, and that would be even worse. Well, it's about, Russian people disappearing and all of that. Let's get back to that. Hundreds of thousands were mobilized in 2022. That's on top who had been fighting before September of 2022. That's also a lot of people. On top of that, let's add those who were mobilized in 2023 and 2024. On top of that, let's add those who volunteered. And yes, it turns out that there are many Russian men like that who volunteered, who voluntarily signed the contracts with Russian Ministry of Defense, took up arms, and went to kill Ukrainians in exchange for $2,000 per month. Yes, there are many Russians like that. Don't forget that. Don't forget after it's all over. Don't forget when they come back and whatever they're going to be saying. Okay, don't forget this brutal truth. You know, they signed papers, and in exchange for $2,000 per month, they went to the front lines to kill Ukrainians. Anyway, according to Shoigu, that's 400,000 Russian men like that, volunteers in 18 months. So we are talking way over a million able men out of labor force. And that's reason number one, mobilization, the war. Second reason is immigration. There are men and women who have fled mobilization and political oppression. And now we are talking big, big numbers. That's not 300,000 people who are mobilized for you. I personally witnessed the exodus at the end of 2022. It continued throughout 2023, although not as intense. And the experts give, again, a range of numbers of how many people left Russia, fled Russia, since the beginning of the war in February 2022. I've heard numbers from 1 to 3 million Russian men, and that's fled just in the first 12 months after the mobilization began. And obviously many more left, before the mobilization was announced, but after the war started. My estimate is close to 3 million people, but that's only in the first 12 months, from September 22 of 2022 to September of 2023, okay? Add hundreds of thousands of Russians who have left before the mobilization, and, they still keep on coming. And it's only men. Wives and children have been moving to reunite with their husbands, and it's happening. It's like a female exodus. The first exodus, when mobilization was announced, it was male exodus, okay? There's males out of workforce. Now it's the females, and husbands, the wives are following their husbands, taking their children. And now it gets even more interesting. I'm seeing another wave of people fleeing. It's on the rise because everyone who has a little bit of brain in their heads understand that right now Russia is on the verge of another big mobilization wave. And that's going to be much more efficient, much more brutal, much more cruel than that one that we saw in 2022. So a lot of people actually are smart and they are leaving. Here in Tashkent, there is another bump in people coming in right now in the last few weeks. People joining Tashkent Breakfast Club asking how to rent apartment. We are, going all over the same thing again. So let's talk about who are those men who have fled Russia. I call them the cream of the crop. They are the best Russia has to offer. They are the foundation of any economy in any country. Okay, they're educated. I would say that absolute majority is with higher education. They are middle-aged, they have experience, but at the same time still plenty of years ahead and plenty of energy to work. They are full of energy, they're brave, they are courageous, they are with good values. And you know what? Each one of us made a step into the unknown, and trust me, that's quite an experience. So all people here, again, the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the best Russia has to offer. If Russia was a normal country, it would be fighting to keep people like who have fled inside Russia. And this category, this reason, this kind of people is probably Russia's biggest loss. And not too many people will come back. I've spoken to almost every single member of Tashkent Breakfast Club. That's 1,000 people, and over the months, of course. And this is one of the questions that I always ask: would you come back if everything is over, let's say tomorrow? No. I certainly will not. Most will not. And the third reason for people disappearing in Russia is the military-industrial complex. Oh, that's a good one. It's a little complicated, but I'm going to try to explain it in simple words. You see, when you look at Russia, there are two economies right now: a civil economy and war economy. Civil economy is everything that we had before the war started. You know, different industries, car manufacturing, food, agriculture, education, anything, that's a normal country. But then after the war started, Russian government started flooding the military-industrial complex with money because, for obvious reason, it needs more tanks, more missiles, more bombs, more ammo, more guns, and much more. And it's been using all available resources that Russian economy has to flood military-industrial complex with money. Okay? We all remember Vladimir Putin was extremely unhappy with the Minister of Industry of Russian Federation in January of 2023 when, there was mishap with transferring money and signing state contracts, state orders with war factories, okay? So military-industrial complex, what has it got to do, if it's ordered to produce as much as possible? All top officials have been bragging that war factories now in Russia are working in 3 shifts, producing as much weapons as possible, as much ammo as possible. Place yourself into the shoes of a general director of a war factory, okay? You depend on the state, and you have this contract. You must supply a certain amount of tanks to the front lines. If you don't, you'll be fired and most likely either killed or imprisoned. What do? You certainly don't count money. You start spending left and right, and the first thing you get is you acquire people, personnel. As many people as needed, and you pay any price. Because if you need money, you go and ask for more, and you're given instantly, okay? And you raise salaries, obviously. To attract people, to keep them at your factory, you raise salaries for everyone. Starting with janitor and ending with your deputy. Everyone, gets lots more money than market price, than market salary. And people start coming to you because you advertise for the entire country. That's exactly what's happening right now. And what happens to other enterprises who are not getting contracts from the state? They must compete with you for people, but they're not flooded with money. Quite on the contrary, they are going through a very hard time. Just one thing, the key interest rate is 16% right now. Imagine they're paying 25% to a commercial bank for a loan just to get money to produce something, a product, and to sell it. And then they must compete with you for people. And how do they compete? They raise salaries and they pay more than you pay, okay? And there's salary war going on right now between military-industrial complex and regular companies. And military-industrial complex is winning. It's acting like a vacuum cleaner, and it's sucking all available men and women and paying them lots of money because it has lots of money. It's not about money. It's not about business. It's not about creating wealth. It's about survival for Russian, for Vladimir Putin and his gang. You know, they don't count money. It's not their money. It's taxpayers' money. So, military-industrial complex is vacuuming all available human resources in the country, and it's killing civil economy. Again, regular businesses are just getting killed because they have no one to work for them. There are fewer people because so many have left Russia and so many have been mobilized and thrown to war. And on top of that, the rest who are left in the labor force, they are thrown, well, not thrown, they are given this much bigger salaries, and they say, okay, you know what, we'd rather go and work producing drones or tanks or AK-47s or whatever, you know. So regular companies cannot compete with military-industrial complex. And this is a huge disbalance. Economy is always balanced. If there's a disbalance, there's a backfire, and backfire is coming. And backfire, I call it the economic tsunami. That's what the backfire is. So, three reasons for Russians disappearing from the labor force. First is the war. It's sucking in Russian men who are, able to fight and who volunteer. Number two, immigration. Smart and bright people, they simply leave. They don't want to participate in the mad circus. And number three, whoever is left, the military-industrial complex enterprises are just attracting and ejecting from the labor market, so to speak. So, as a result, we have Russian economy is being flooded with money. First of all, the soldiers, those who volunteered, those who signed contracts, they're getting, according to Russian standards, lots of money every month. Okay, they get compensated. Some, just for you to understand, in most provinces, let's say $300 per month is a good salary. And all of a sudden, the very same person is given an opportunity to sign a contract and start getting $2,000 per month, almost. And now I think they're paying even more, almost 10 times more, okay? So person's never seen that money before, and he start raking in and spending like crazy, and, So military-industrial complex is paying much more to people who work at the war enterprises, and that's also filling economy with extra money. At the same time, there are no more goods and services produced than was produced before. Basically, what's produced right now is, in large quantities, is the products of war. Missiles, tanks, drones, stuff that is fired to Ukraine and explodes, killing Ukrainians. It does not help Russian economy whatsoever. Okay, it does not give anything to consumers. That stuff is pure loss. One rocket that blew up Kakhovka Dam cost Russian taxpayers $15 million. Okay, that's the cost of one school. And then instead of building a school, constructing a new school, they manufacture a missile and send it to Ukraine to blow up Kakhovka Dam. So, the Russian economy is not benefiting by military-industrial complex. It's being crippled by it. Because normal companies produce less and less. They produce fewer products and fewer services. It's become so difficult for them to operate in this crazy Russian economy, very disbalanced one. Okay, and so the less products are produced, domestic products and goods and services, and then more money is pumped into the economy. And you know what it means? Inflation. It means that people are willing to pay more for the same things, and inflation is going up as a result. It's gone up quite a lot in the past year, and it's going to gallop in 2024. You watch, mark my words. The results of this, you see, Russia is not going to last long at this war mode economy, at this war mode race. In fact, what's happening right now, Russia has started competing with the West. Competing manufacturing, basically a new arms race has begun. And Russia is not going to be continue at this pace for a long time. What Russia is doing right now is not sustainable. The reason Russia is still functioning, the Russian state is still paying for war products, for the death produced, is that it had big reserves before. And the reserves were acquired because of, the vast richness of Russian land, oil, gas, metals, and so forth. But it's out of the reserves. It's out of cash. Russian government has money enough to pay for the military-industrial complex products for 4 months. What are they going to do after? Well, that's a different story. It's a different stream. But you see, the West, the USA, has upped its military spendings right now. It's updating entire infrastructure, military infrastructure. It's stockpiling new weapons. Europe is doing the same, but they have not fundamentally changed their economies. If you are in the United States or in Europe right now, your country is doing the same that it was doing before. It just corrected your budget, your country's budget, for a little bit. It upped military budget, but not by a huge margin. Russia has gone through fundamental change, and that change is not sustainable. And that's not good for Russia. It cannot compete with the West. It's like, let me tell you what the future will bring to Russia. 3 things I'm seeing very clear right now. Thing number 1, and it's been happening for the last year or so, people will become poorer and poorer. Every month will bring new hardships for Russian people. It's hard for me to explain what I see, the depth of it, but it's going to be very bad. Not only Russians will go back to early 90s when it was challenging to live, economically challenging, but I think that they will fall further into the 80s, into the USSR, because there are many areas of life where USSR seems to be back already. What is USSR? It's a set of laws and regulations, and some of them are back, and some of them are working in Russia. So people will become poorer and poorer. So number 2, there will be more catastrophes. If you think that the worst is over, last winter was pretty darn bad. 40 major Russian cities declared emergencies because their utilities simply were breaking down and there was no one to fix. Well, I described in details that situation. But if you think the worst is over, that's just the beginning. And it's not just the utilities, it's going to be everything else. Now, last winter was the utilities. Now it is the floods. In the summertime, it'll be fires. Now there's very few people to help Russians because there's shortages of people in the Ministry of Emergency Situations, and then there are shortages among firemen as well. So who will be putting down fires? No one. Russians will be just enjoying the show, seeing how everything is burning down, and that's coming. If summer is hot this year, then this is what's going to happen. And the next thing, utilities will start failing even more because they're not being maintained right now. Russians, don't get your hopes high. The weather saved you. It's warmer in Russia now. It's the utility season, the heat season is off. It's over. But that's what's coming in 4 months. It's not much, start in September. South of Russia probably start in November, but in the Far East, in the Siberia, in the north, start in September because it gets cold in September. And it's not just the utilities. Unfortunately, Russian planes will start falling down from the skies very soon. Because there are two problems: the isolation, the sanctions, and the lack of personnel, qualified personnel. Russian pilots are trying to run to different countries. China is vacuuming Russian pilots because China is, needs good pilots. Trains. There will be catastrophes with trains. There have been accidents already. Fortunately, no one died, but this is just the beginning. And everything else is simply not going to be enough qualified people to maintain things, to run things, and to fix things. And that leads to many catastrophes. And number 3, I see clear that what is a good analogy? I don't know if you ever done running, but there are 2 types of running. People who run short distances but very fast, and who run extremely long distances but slowly. You can do either or. You cannot do both. What Russia is trying to do is trying to run long distance like a Steyr, like very, very fast. And it's on the verge. You can do that for 100, 200, 300 meters, yards, but that's it. You'll just drop on the ground and you'll be out of breath. And this is where Russia right now. It's right there. It's out of reserves. And what I'm seeing is very long economic decline for the country. And what I mean long is decades. Because Russia has destroyed the foundation of any economy, okay? Actually, the foundations, not just foundation. It's losing people. It's losing best assets, natural resources. It has lost international trust. And basically, very soon, and I believe it's happening now already, we're seeing it, and it'll happen more. There will be a very long and sometimes slow, sometimes fast, but very long economic decline. This is how Russian future looks like to me. Now, I would like to finish the stream by saying, some experts, both Russian and foreign, come out and say publicly that Russian economy is actually not doing too bad. For example, International Monetary Fund just improved the outlook for Russian economy for 2024. I'm an economist myself, and I don't understand, well, at first I didn't understand how they could come up with numbers like that. But then, everything became very clear. They are taking the numbers provided by Russian government and treat them as they were real and truthful. Okay? Based on Russian government's estimations, yes, 3.6 is possible, perhaps even 4, perhaps 5 under good circumstances, but the harsh reality is very, very different. If we would take military industrial complex out of equation, we would see a huge decline in the negative right now. All you need to do, if you're an economist, and I don't know, any economists out there, please let me know what you think in the comments. Perhaps I'm off, perhaps, just let me know. But my understanding is you need to know one number about the economy, 2.8%. Unemployment, 2.8%. You need to know that to understand that this number cripples the economy. You cannot grow with 2.8% unemployment. You cannot grow by 3.6% GDP growth, Western organizations, hey, what are you smoking? I know what you're smoking. You're smoking Putin's numbers. You'd better get real, And now I'll finish with the absolute worst thing for Russia. This is not going to end soon. This is the initial impulse for the country on the way down. But a very long, long way is ahead of Russia. A long way down. Let me tell you a personal story. When USSR fell apart, things became tough economically. The country was going through a period of reconstructing itself, rebirthing, so to speak. The communist system was replaced by capitalism overnight, in one night, just like that. We fell asleep living in communism, woke up in capitalism, just like that. That was absolutely crazy. And Russians were adapting. And it took them 10 years to adapt, 10 years to learn new ways, 10 years to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, 10 years to understand how to do business, what the laws of economy are, this is very, very painful process. It was a great time. I like it very much. I think it was one of the best in the history of Russia. At the same time, especially for those older folks who could not adapt, who had been born, raised, and bred by communism, it was incredibly difficult for them. And a lot of people started leaving Russia. I personally remember that people were trying to make it, and our neighbors went abroad for a few months, and then they came back with money, and they were able to afford food and, some luxuries, basic, simple luxuries. And then they were telling everyone how they went to Greece and they were picking oranges. And then they went to Greece, they went to Ireland as seasonal workers, and then they left for good. They said, you know what? We found a way how to get there and stay legally, and they left. There was another neighbor, and he was a scientist. Back in 1992, he was invited by, I think, a university in the United States, and he moved there permanently. And everyone who possessed enough skills or simply enough bravery, enough courage to actually get up and go, they were trying to leave Russia at that time. And so many people left. And again, the cream of the crop. Those who had energy, those who had guts, those who had who were willing to learn a new language, who were willing to get to a new country and make new living for themselves, And it was absolutely incredible to see these people get up and go. And most of them never returned. Most of them probably have been having good lives for the past 35 years, 34 years. And this is what expects Russia in the future. Everyone who will have enough smarts, education, willingness to leave, bravery, courage, they will be trying to leave. And I think it's going to be even worse than in the 90s. In the 90s, the process was fairly the fast because by 1997, life got better and people stopped leaving. They were able to open businesses in Russia, create products. Things were getting better, okay? But in Russia, circa 2024, 2025, and so forth in the future, things not going to get better that fast. They're going to get worse, and they're going to stay worse for a very, very long time. And the country is just ruined at this point. People either are dead or have left or will be leaving who have not left. Who's going to stay in Russia? Those Z people who drink a lot and think that everyone hates them. Imagine what atmosphere in Russia will be, Oy. I've heard a very disturbing and very scary number. Right now, the population of Russia is around 145 million people. That was before the war started, before everyone fled. But still, right now, I think it's in 140 million or so, 140 millions or so. Some experts say, and they prove their points, they give research, and their estimations are based on facts. 67 million will be left in Russia by the end of the century. From 140 million to 67 million. If it's not a catastrophe, well, tell me what catastrophe is. Basically, Putin right now is stealing Russia's future. And I think he has stolen it for the most part. This is the worst leader, the worst president, the worst dictator, the worst of the worst that Russia has ever seen in its entire history. Thank you so very much. This is my message for today. Usually I invite everyone to carry on in a live stream chat. Not today, hopefully tomorrow. I would like to invite everyone to finish the stream by praying along with me. If you're religious, call it a prayer. If you're not religious, you can call it sending good vibes, good wishes, good energy to people or to universe, or, doesn't matter. To me, it's all the same. So if you like my message, come and pray with me. Thank you. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the food that you've put on our tables. Thank you for the roofs that you've placed above our heads. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful, and raise them the way that when they grow up and become adults, they will never fight in any wars, and they will just be loving each other. We'll make this world a better place. For now, please keep our children healthy and safe, because they are our world and our life. Dear Lord, please help Ukraine stop the bloodshed, reach out and touch the hearts and souls of those who are responsible for this terrible tragedy, who are capable of making decisions to stop the bloodshed, and open their eyes, have them wake up from the lethargic sleep they've been sleeping at, so they wake up and make this decision to stop the bloodshed. Please help every single Ukrainian who has been affected, answer their prayers, and make their wishes come true. And also please help my country, Russia, assemble your army of your strongest angels with sharpest swords, led by Saint Michael in shining armor, and send this army as avalanche down to earth to get rid of the demons who have hijacked my country, who we know by their faces and by their names. Have your angels help good Russian people to run Russia and make it peaceful, loving, and respecting. Please help everyone who is traveling right now. Send safe travels. Everyone who is in trouble of any kind, in dire straits and in high waters, please help. Help those who are seeking for asylum, running away from evil. Help the single mothers who are struggling raising their children, trying to make ends meet. Please help those Ukrainians who are currently under the attacks of Russian missiles. Send them safety. And God bless everyone who's helping Ukrainians. Dear Lord, please help all the addicted, the depressed, the sick, the hungry, the homeless, the jobless, the ones who are losing their faith, the ones who are not feeling well, the betrayed, the hurting. Please help everyone in need. Surround them with your love. Show them that you're with them. Have them feel you right next to them. Have them feel you watching over their lives and helping them to take every step they make. Have them feel your support so they don't feel alone anymore. Help them with everything they need. And by knowing that you're right next to them, you're with them, their lives will become happier. They will have a chance for better lives. Thank you so much for allowing us to come here every day and pray. Thank you for everyone who's praying along with me right now or simply watching us pray. Make everyone's wish come true and answer everyone's prayer. And dear Lord, please help everyone who is on my prayers list. You know them better than I do, and you know what their needs and pains are. Please help every single person who has reached out and asked me to pray for them. Help all the children, Ukrainian children who have been misplaced. Please return them to their parents and their families. Help everyone who has been affected by this terrible tragedy. Thank you, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, friends, for coming, giving me a chance to deliver my message. There will be another message tomorrow, and hopefully there will be a live stream chat. That my personal most favorite part of any stream. Thank you for coming. You are absolutely awesome and you rock. And before I sign off, I'd like to ask everyone to say along out loud with me the following: Carthago delenda est.